ladies and gentlemen, and now for a discussion on the Climate Governance Commission. Please welcome Maja Groff for a conversation with the Honorable Mary Robinson.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm so delighted to be here with Mary Robinson, who of course needs no introduction, but just to flag, of course, she's filled countless posts of public service, national, international, President of Ireland, High Commissioner for Human Rights, Special Climate Envoy under Ban Ki-moon, and now, of course, Chair of the Elders, and very kindly also chairing the Climate Governance Commission that we'll be speaking about more today. So Mary, thank you so much for being with us today and devoting some of your precious time. And just to say a note about the Climate Governance Commission that Mary is the lead chair of, alongside Johan Rockstrom as a co-chair, and Maria Fernanda Espinosa, who you met yesterday and was speaking here on stage. It's meant to really give a laser focus to this governance perspective in confronting the climate challenge, but the planetary emergency, all of the planetary boundaries. We must upgrade our governance to tackle these unprecedented challenges, ecological challenges. Now we are living in the Anthropocene. And the Climate Governance Commission in particular, we're trying to bring thought entrepreneurship, thought leadership to this planetary awareness of the planetary boundaries. Too often in policy circles, our vantage point is from the nation state looking up to the planet rather than taking the planet as a whole and figuring out what we have to do to ensure we stay within planetary boundaries or get back within planetary boundaries. So that is our task at the Climate Governance Commission, to make proposals to the international community. We've just released a statement for UNGA and Climate Week, which we will share with the organizers. It's available on our website, where we have some urgent near-term levers and improvements in governance, and then deeper, longer-term proposals. And we'll be fleshing these out in a longer report that we'll release before COP28 in November. So, moving to our dialogue, Mary. So the first question I have for you is really about, this legacy and the wonderful vision of the Elders, of course, founded by Nelson Mandela, and really this, perspective of visionary, transformative, and ethical leadership. And my question to you is, we have a planetary emergency. As Sandrine was saying this morning, we have not done, what we need to do for 40 years or so. Why is there this leadership gap, really, in our political classes, at all layers of governance? And, you said before in conversation that often the elders are being looked to very frequently to sort of help to fill this gap. What are they looking to the elders for that is missing in the world? What kind of leadership do we need?
Well, thank you, Maja. It's great to be here, and it's great to be here with both Johan as a fellow co-chair of our Governance Commission, and Sandrine, who's a member, and there are other members, I think, here of the Commission, or have spoken, like Maria Fernanda Espinosa, who's another co-chair. What I like about the approach of the Global Commission the Global Governance Commission is we're actually matching ideas and partnerships. We're building a wide sense of inclusive approach and drawing on other reports like the high-level advisory board on multilateralism that another elder, Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf, was a co-chair of. And so it's that inclusive approach, and that very much is something that the elders feel is necessary. It's true that we don't have adequate governance at the moment. We really don't. The gap is very big. The COP system is not functioning well. And people are looking forward to COP28 with some apprehension for many reasons that people in this room probably know well. That shouldn't be the case. It should be much more effective, a smaller, focused COP, focused on the 6 pillars that we've set out in our report, and able actually to address the key problem, which is phasing out fossil fuel. That's going to be very hard to do at COP28, to even get a statement on that, as we know, because the system is not geared. And I think the elders have really understood that we need to try to encourage. I mean, we're former leaders, we're independent, we have a moral voice, but I think we have some wisdom and experience that we can bring, I hope. But I'm glad that we have diverse members of this commission that bring diverse perspectives, and I think there are a lot of gaps that we want to fill. I was honoured to join with Johan 2 days ago in the launch of Guardians for Planetary Boundaries, which brought home to me even more how we need to root our governance in the science. Root it in the science and in nature. In the science and in nature. And we are nature. I was interested in that panel, and I thought there was a sort of almost a difference between those who understand that we are nature and those who felt we should come closer to nature. We shouldn't come closer to nature. We are nature. Make no mistake. And part of our responsibility is to preserve the other parts of nature that sustain us, the ecosystems that sustain us. And it's very worrying that we're now in a worrying zone on 6 of those 9 planetary boundaries. This requires very focused, effective governance, and we don't have that at the moment.
Yes. Thank you, Mary. And indeed, just to flag, as Mary was mentioning, we have as one of our top 10 near-term proposals strengthening the COPs, and there is a wonderful letter written by Sandrine, Johan, Aronaba, and Mary and others signed to try to have less unwieldy COPs, make them much more focused. And also, I've just received a wonderful proposal from a very eminent lawyer in the Netherlands about just tightening the accountability screws in the near term on the Paris Agreement, something very concrete and tangible we could do. And as we've heard over the last few, yesterday, also the importance of law and norms, and that we also have the capacity. There are many international institutions that we can draw from to improve this really vital Earth system governance. And just mention, very quickly a few of the other top 10 proposals. A declaration of planetary emergency by the UN General Assembly, for example. We are in planetary emergency. We have to recognize it and then start acting like we're in an emergency together with collaboration, as Mary underlined. So my next question to you, Mary, is about this sort of dynamic that we've talked about in our co-chair meetings about top-down action. We need bold, transformative leadership at the top, in our apex institutions, at all levels of governance, but also we need the bottom-up sort of push. And you have the wonderful Project Dandelion, so just wondering if you could tell us more about Project Dandelion and this bottom-up, top-down dynamic as you see it.
I think that's really important. I understand the problem of democratic leaders and the fact that not only are they not making the kind of progress we need now, but actually there's a regression going on. Countries are falling back. The G20 was weaker than the G20 a year ago. And we're seeing countries literally not moving forward incrementally, which they sort of were doing, but actually regressing a bit. This is absolutely unacceptable, and why is it happening? And I think it's happening because we still don't have this sense of crisis. People know that there's something wrong in our world. And why I particularly like the planetary boundaries approach is it explains what's wrong. And we need to promote that, and that's what the Guardian's role is, to promote why we're seeing more storms, more heat waves, more forest fires, that we've known that climate has been unfair in impacting more quickly the poorest countries and communities that aren't responsible, the gender dimensions, the intergenerational injustice, etc. But now we're all affected and we're confused, but we haven't got that sense of crisis, top down and bottom up. And if you take a country like Ireland, we have good climate legislation now, and we have a government that is committed to doing its best. We have a clear legislation that we will cut emissions by 51%, but we are on course for 29% at best. And I'd say that's probably average in the European Union, where we're talking about democratic countries and other democracies. And the United States gets 1 out of 3, in my view, in making some progress. The Inflation Reduction Act, I refuse to call it by its initials because they're horrible. The Inflation Reduction Act is incentivizing clean energy, but the US is still opening up new oil and gas. I was part of the march, and the anger of the people on the street and the almost sense of what is going wrong, that we're still expanding what's harming us, basically. And then the third thing is on climate finance. The United States also is not playing its part, partly because of a very divided Congress, as we know. So what about bottom-up? I saw the way bottom-up got us the 1.5 in the goal in Paris. As a special envoy of the Secretary General, I saw that going into the Paris Agreement, there was no agreement on 1.5 being as part of the goal. India wasn't agreeing, and the way these things work, if a country stands out, it's not possible. Other countries were hiding or using India. And then Tony de Bruijn in the ministerial meetings and these indigenous peoples, civil society, progressive business, philanthropy, etc. We all marched in the street in Paris. I'm sure some of you remember 1.5 to stay alive, 1.5 to stay alive. And inside, Tony de Bruijn formed a high-level coalition that got the goal of staying well below 2 degrees and working for 1.5. And then we had the report, the first report on this of the IPCC in October 2018, the special report on 1.5, showing that we all have to stay at 1.5, and we're getting closer to it, as we know now, dangerously closer to it. So we only have 6 or 7 years in which to really transformative change. So we need a governance, we need the pressure from below. And what Project Dandelion is, it's a kind of feminist earthshot. It's saying we need an icon that grounds us in nature. The dandelion is superb. It grows on all 7 continents. It's very resilient. You can't get rid of the damn thing if you want to. It's also very good to regenerate the soil because it's got deep roots. You could eat or drink every part of the dandelion. Even the roots of the dandelion take toxins out of the human body. And how do you spread it? So it's an ideal way to do something that actually came up in the panel before us, to make visible the positives. I often say we are on the cusp of a clean energy, healthier, safer climate world for all. We're on the cusp of it. We're moving in that direction, but we're moving too slowly. And we're actually facing, at best, a 2.4 degree world, which is catastrophic. So what's wrong with us? As human beings, how can this be? Unless we can ground our governance in science and have people understanding. We have a big job to do to create a movement of movements, a biggest climate justice movement that is completely inclusive of indigenous, they're already there, young people, they're already there, a lot of progressive business is already there, and women leaders need to do more, because I'm aware, and I just make this point, I'm aware there are a lot of women leaders for whom climate is not their thing. They do wonderful work on violence against women, girls' education, health issues, you name it. But they've kind of said, climate's a bit complicated and I don't know what I'd say. We have to say climate is everybody's thing. And women leaders really have to step up because they have to change behavior globally in their communities, as well as take on the voice of calling out those who are harming us, incentives to move to clean energy, but also fund what's happening on the ground, and funded well, and a lot of that, of course, is women-led. Sorry, it's a slightly long answer on Project Dandelion. I know we're short of time, but if you go into either connectedwomenleaders.org or Project Dandelion, you can Google about it. We're having a day of action globally, virtually, around the world on the 21st of November. Okay.
No, brilliant, because it's a call to action.
Yeah.
And at this conference, in fact, we're talking about building alliances for the must-haves and must-dos, so we can connect into a movement of movements, as you say. And the Climate Governance Commission is building a platform, the MEGA, Mobilizing Earth Governance Alliance, so we can all work together.
Yeah.
And this is a brilliant segue, what you've said, into my last question in the short time we have left together. It's really about this dismal sort of geopolitical situation we find ourselves in at the moment. Oft said, what is really possible to accomplish given this backdrop? Yet, we've seen such extraordinary breakthroughs in international governance through these brilliant coalitions that you've mentioned in terms of the Paris Agreement.
The
what
ICC?
Do you think? Exactly. ICC, the Nuclear Weapons Ban Treaty, Landmines Treaty. So do you think, what do you think about this? Should we, push for this breakthrough for our common home, and even despite the geopolitical backdrop, could it even be a springboard to be more ambitious and visionary and caring to the whole of humanity? What do you think the potential is?
I think given how broken the system is at the moment, unfortunately, because of the geopolitical divides and because, unfortunately, the impact of the aggressive war by Russia on Ukraine, we see it in all the UN meetings now, and it's weakening the system, which we must fight against. And I think the way to do it is that inside-outside way that we got the 1.5 into the text. So we need willing governments, because the people of their countries understand the science. So we need a lot more work to be done to bring that science home to people and say, we are in a very serious state, but we're moving in the right direction. All we have to do is move faster. It's doable. I mean, don't frighten people that it's not doable. It is doable. It's just a question of political will. And if we can get enough countries to move and show that it's much better for those countries, much healthier, and if we can make it a partnership, as I say, top down, bottom up, and networks in the middle, I think we can move and must move. We have no choice. I love what one of our indigenous members of this Connected Women Leaders who started the Project Dandelion said. Jade Bigay. Jade is here in the United States. She's an indigenous woman from New Mexico, indigenous leader. And she said in her tribe in New Mexico, they have a kind of saying, what if our best times are ahead of us? What if our best times are ahead of us? That's kind of contrary to the malaise of this moment. But let's think about it.
Yes.
Our best times are ahead of us, as long as we get over the cusp and into this clean energy, healthier, safer, nature-based, regenerative world, that we're all guardians of planetary boundaries. It's doable, and we have to do it.
Beautiful, perfect, an amazing way to end. Thank you so much, Mary. Let's thank her for joining us today.